يا طيبة يا طيبة يا دوا العيانة، اشتقنا لك والهوى نادانا.
On a freezing January morning, being afflicted severely by biting cold and torrential wind, we desperately needed to travel to Aligarh on the morning train. Myself, my wife, and our daughter Zulfa waited by the roadside for a rickshaw taxi to take us to Panipat railway station. As our waiting became prolonged and the temperature continued to drop, we were becoming more and more anxious about missing the morning train. Unfortunately, the next scheduled train to Aligarh was due later that evening, too late to complete the long journey in daylight. "Dad, how long must we wait? I'm feeling really cold," Zulfa asked. "Be patient, sweetheart. A rickshaw is probably on its way," I said. Suddenly, breaking through the morning mist, I noticed a tuk-tuk rickshaw approaching in our direction with an elderly gentleman at its helm. I quickly managed to grab his attention and stop and pleaded with him to take us to the railway station most urgently, as we had little time left to catch the Aligarh train. The driver urged us quickly aboard the rickshaw and started to help us with the luggage. Although I was keen to agree a fare beforehand to avoid any disagreements later, he assured me that he was a good man who did not create problems for his passengers. As we arrived at the Panipat railway station, the rickshaw driver summoned a porter. "Lullaby, these people are in a hurry. Please, carry their luggage, help them purchase their tickets at the right kiosk, and then deliver them to the Aligarh train." When I offered to pay the rickshaw driver, he refused to accept. As I began to insist, he responded, "It is my principle that every day I do not charge the very first passengers, whether rich or poor. Years ago, my father advised me to do one good deed per day, and ever since I have been practicing on this principle." Having said that, he quickly drove off, leaving me in absolute amazement. As we boarded the train and secured our luggage, I offered to pay the porter, but he refused to accept. As I began to insist, he responded, "It is my principle that every day I do not accept money from the very first customers." When I asked, "From whom have you learned this principle?" the porter said, "From the rickshaw driver who earlier dropped you off at this station. Ever since I first came across this sincere gentleman and his practice of one good deed per day, I too have been practicing this principle." I reflected on my long journey to Aligarh, having been deeply touched by the actions of the rickshaw driver and the porter, that despite all the challenges I face in my life, I should summon the courage to do one good deed per day.